pictures of 28-year-old Simone Duran are how her two young daughters will have to remember her.
They miss her and they ask about her every day. They wake up in the middle of the night crying for her.
Just 3 and 4 years old, motherless because she did the right thing. In 2018, after Duran stepped up to pick out a shooting suspect in a lineup, she was lured, kidnapped, shot 10 times and killed before her body was set on fire.
This was a horrific crime. I am struck by the casualness in which it was committed, the absolute disregard for human life.
Judge Philip McNulty went back and forth on letting cameras inside the sentencing. He decided to grant Fox 31 access because he wants to send a strong message to gang members.
This is the result. This is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're let out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison.
A jury found this gang member and 2 others guilty of her murder.
And it may be symbolic, but I'm going to impose the maximum sentence just because you deserve it.
Life without parole plus 163 years.
We have people sobbing today. If there's any tears, they should be shed for Miss Duran. She didn't have a choice. Mr. Guy,
just minding my business. That's it. I don't have nothing to say to the Bloods. This is who runs Park Hill as a 50-year-old Blood.
Rolling. This is good footage. He said that he chased me. The same guy said he chased me in my neighborhood.
Crenshaw Mafia, homie.
That's right, yeah.
That's how I feel. Crenshaw Mafia. Why are y'all harassing me?
He want to play the victim. He think he's the only.
This is why. This is why we have 95 homicides in the city every year.
Did nothing to this dude. Ain't nobody got no problem with it.
It was 60 Bloods, and he's shot. It's on camera. How'd I get acquitted?
That's why. That's why. No one went to court on it.
100 Bloods versus me. Yeah, your mama's a.
And cracking down on gang violence all across the metro, 16 members of Denver's Violent Bloods gang indicted by a federal grand jury. Denver 7's Lance Hernandez is live tonight with more on how authorities are not just going after those committing crimes. Lance.
Adam, it's not just the people actually pulling the triggers, but those who are calling the shots who could find themselves behind bars for a long, long time. And instead of wide sweeps through neighborhoods, investigators are using improved technology to systematically target those who are responsible for the bulk of the violence.
Nothing tears the fabric of a community like violence.
Gunfire in broad daylight at a popular gas station and car wash. The man in the white T-shirt, one of 16 people indicted by a federal grand jury.
Violence breeds fear.
U.S. Attorney Bob Troyer says they're using a racketeering statute to make state crimes like murder and assault with a dangerous weapon federal crimes when they're committed in connection with a racketeering enterprise.
And make no mistake about it, folks, the Bloods is a racketeering enterprise. The business of the Bloods is violence.
Troyer says 8 of those indicted planned or participated in 4 violent acts. 2 shootings in Denver and 2 violent home invasions. Improvements in a database, the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, are giving prosecutors an edge.
When we use the NIBIN system, we look and we start linking shootings, maybe some insignificant shootings or appear insignificant.
The head of the ATF says those links show the same people are involved in most of the violence. Denver's police chief says they'll use the same racketeering statutes against other gangs.
We're sending out a message to other organized groups out there. Their intent is committing crime, that it's just a matter of time before they're next.
Now, the indictment alleges that members of the Bloods gang use violence and intimidation against those who challenge them or who are disloyal. One of the alleged business practices, advertising escort services on Craigslist. When the woman shows up at the customer's house, gang members with guns drawn follow her in to terrorize and rob the suspect. In Denver, Lance Hernandez, Denver 7.
Now, the plan to tackle gang violence in Denver takes on new urgency.
Denver police and the feds rolling out a plan to add surveillance cameras and resources to gang investigations. 7 News reporter Lance Hernandez live at 26th and Williams. Lance, the mayor is calling it the Gang Reduction Initiative of Denver.
Eric, that initiative is a multi-pronged approach that includes Increasing patrols here in neighborhoods affected by gang violence, as well as outreach by the city's impact team. So far this year, Denver has logged 12 gang-related shooting fatalities. One of the most recent, a young man gunned down while he was on his way to his uncle's funeral. His uncle gunned down 2 weeks prior. Now, investigators tell me that gang shootings are among the most difficult to investigate because people are just unwilling to talk.
We think this is completely unacceptable for individuals to live as hostages in their own community.
Despite all the resources that we're pouring towards this, it is absolutely critical that we have the eyes and ears of the citizens in this community.
Now, there is even a reluctance to talk about the mayor's initiative. I asked one young man what he thought. He said he didn't want to say anything on camera because his friend was one of the young men who had been shot a little bit earlier this month. I asked a woman down the block. She said she wanted to keep her thoughts to herself. In the Whittier neighborhood, Lance Hernandez.
New at 11, law enforcement are taking some new measures to stop the Bloods Street Gang here in Denver.
The U.S. Attorney, ATF, along with Denver and Aurora Police, held a news conference that is just wrapped up. Denver 7's Lance Hernandez was there, and he joins us now with the very latest information. Lance.
Dale, the U.S. Attorney told me that they arrested 16 people recently for violent criminal activity related to the Bloods gang. Now, for the first time, they're using what is referred to as the Vicar statutes. Now, that is violent crimes in aid of racketeering. What they're doing is arresting people for criminal activity, including shootings, a couple of shootings, and a couple of violent home invasions. And instead of focusing on individuals involved, they're focusing on the criminal enterprise and the people who are running those criminal enterprises. Now, they told us also that these people are using whatever means are possible to get money. Sometimes it's drug activity, sometimes it's using a young, good-looking woman who advertises escort services on Craigslist, and she goes in to meet the person who's called her, and violent thugs follow her in and then go ahead and burglarize that house. We'll have more on this story tonight on our newscast in the early evening. Police and the ATF and the U.S. Attorney also released photographs of some of the criminals involved, including some of the shootings that happened in broad daylight. We will update you when we reach those newscasts. Reporting live in downtown Denver, Lance Hernandez, Denver 7.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lake Gang TV. I appreciate you guys checking out the channel. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. I got a banger for you guys today. We're going over to Denver, Colorado to be covering the Crenshaw Mafia Bloods, obviously a subset of the Bloods. And kind of interesting when you hear Denver, Colorado and Bloods really don't go hand in hand. But there's a lot of places like that around the country. A lot of areas with certain gang presences that I don't think people really would believe are there, or they'd be shocked to understand. And I feel like this is kind of one place because a lot of these articles, a lot of these stories I do, you don't get the kind that you don't get the name of the gang that the individuals who committed the crimes are involved with, and they say they do that because they don't want to give credit to said gang. And I don't know where I read that. I remember watching it some years ago, way before I ever started YouTube or anything like that. But it basically said that, you know, when you get some top dogs, or just not even top dogs, but you get gang members that commit these crimes, and the gang gets named in the press, they like that. It's a respect thing. You know, they love the attention, and it basically solidifies that heartless, violent reputation. Don't mess with us, don't F with us, because look what happens, right? To rivals or snitches or just anybody that gets in the way. So, you know, sometimes it's tough, but I did. A lot of times I got to read like the appeal paperwork or the actual, go like on the if it's a federal case, go on the federal website and really read through the courtroom, the affidavit. You know, you got to do some digging. So I did not know right away they were Crenshaw Mafia Blood members. And this case is sad. I would say that this case is sad. It's gruesome in the way that they killed this individual. So we're going to kind of get right into it. 2018. Man, we're going to go to November of 2018. 3 Crenshaw Mafia Blood members, Abel Candy Gallegos, Alonzo Quintana, and Rene Francisco Rosales, all in their late 30s, except Alonzo, well, 2 of them. Abel Gallegos in his 30s, late 30s, Rosales in his late 30s, and Alonzo Quintana late 20s. and they murdered a woman that basically had spoken out against Quintana. She was going to testify against him in an unrelated crime, and that woman's name was Simone Duran. And RIP to her, because she did not deserve what happened to her. Nobody deserves what happened to her. Nobody deserves to get killed, but when we get into how she was killed, I think you guys will understand more by what I mean to that. So like I said, Crenshaw Mafia, Blood Gang members, they're in Colorado. The area that these guys were from was technically Lakewood. And just a quick background, the Crenshaw Mafia Bloods spread to Denver in the late 1980s. Okay, the Bloods and Crips in Denver exist, and the Crips are obviously the Bloods' rival. They exist in areas of Denver such as Northeast Park Hill, East Denver, Aurora, Lakewood, which is where our guys are from, Inglewood, Commerce City, and Capitol Hill. And they've really set themselves up there, okay? And then basically their dividing line, Denver's Bloods and Crips have chosen Colorado Boulevard. That's where they separate the two gangs. That's like their dividing line, right? The North Korea, South Korea, if you want to look at it like that. So Simone Duran initially had identified Alonzo Quintana in a lineup in an attempted murder investigation in Adams County in early of 2018. So remember, this murder happens at the end of 2018. From there, she became a target of Abel Candy Gallegos, Quintana, and Rosales. Now, Abel Gallegos is the one that you see more in the court. He was the ringleader of this, and what they did to this poor girl was horrible. So on November 5th, 2018, Duran was lured, kidnapped, and shot 10 times as she begged for her life, and then was set on fire, according to authorities. So, in early November 2018, Duran, who had been approached by 36-year-old Abel Candy Gallegos of Lakewood on social media, met with him. Renee Francisca Rosales, 36 of Lakewood, and some other people at the house in Denver where they met up. They're all there. They're all hanging out. Duran, Gallegos, and Rosales left the house together, and Rosales went home. Okay? Meanwhile, Abel Gallegos took Duran to a parking lot at West Colfax and Kipling, where he had previously arranged to meet with Quintana. Now remember, Quintana is the guy that Simone Duran was going to basically go to court against. She had identified him in an attempted murder charge 6, 7, 8 months prior. All right? And this is all according to the district attorney's office. Quintana and Gallegos assaulted Duran and imprisoned her in the back of the car before they drove her to a dark, secluded spot at West 7th Avenue and Nile Street in Golden, Colorado. Outside the car, Gallegos and Quintana shot Duran 10 times as she begged for her life, according to the district attorney's office. The men then left the area. Abel Gallegos and Rosales returned later. So they shoot her, they beat her up, they shoot her. It's just awful as she begged for her life. They then leave. And you just got to try. This is what I tell you guys, to really picture this stuff, man. You got to really picture the depravity of some people. And I'm not even saying gang members, but, you hear about this a lot in the court systems, and judges and even lawyers, when they hear about what humans can do to each other. It's shocking. And this is one of those cases. So they return later. They pour gasoline on her body and set it on fire. And then check this out. The reason she was found pretty quickly. Firefighters responding to a call about a brush fire at that location found her body. It wasn't a brush fire. They found her body. Maybe brush was burning, but she was the one, the victim. They found her at around early in that morning, so 1:30 a.m. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office said the woman, who they identified as Duran, a couple days after the murder, died of gunshot wounds. The 3 men were arrested individually November 8th, 9th, and 20th. So, a few days after, 2 of them get picked up, and then a week and a half later, the third and final one gets picked up. And actually, Abel Candy Gallegos, the leader of this, he was arrested on an unrelated charge. So you can tell just that, reading that little snippet, active. You're an active gang member. You're shooting somebody 10 times, setting them on fire, and you're going right back out and doing something else. Quintana, she's speaking out against him on an attempted murder charge 7-8 months ago. They've got no qualms about, okay, who's talking? All right, get her. Let's go. Now, a little bit of a prior. This is Abel Candy Gallegos' 6th felony conviction. He had been revoked on parole or probation 8 times. Judge Philip McNutty at the time of the sentencing case, said that he was appalled by the callousness of this crime and disregard for human life. Quote, "You cannot live among us anymore," Judge McNutty told Abel Gallegos. Quintana and Rosales, they were going to be sentenced beginning of 2019. So, the sentences. Abel Gallegos, 36, Alonzo Quintana, 28, and Rene Francisco Rosales, 36, were each found guilty of multiple crimes after a 3-week trial that included 50 witnesses and 400 pieces of evidence, according to a news release from the 1st Judicial District Attorney's Office. Jefferson County, Colorado. 3 men were sentenced for the murder of Simone Duran in the 700 block of Nile Street in Golden, Colorado, on November 5th, 2018. Alonzo Quintana, 28, was sentenced to life in prison plus 160 years. Quintana was convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, second-degree kidnapping, aggravated intimidation of a witness, retaliation against a witness, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with evidence and other charges. Rene Rosales, 36 years old, was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Rosales was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with a deceased human body, tampering with evidence, and being an accessory to a crime. And we get to the top one, the leader of this, Abel Candy Gallegos, 36 years old, was sentenced last month to life in prison plus 163 years. Gallegos was convicted of multiple charges, including first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, second-degree kidnapping, retaliation against a witness, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with evidence. The men were convicted after Duran's body was found burning near a dumpster in Golden, Colorado, November 2018. So, man, pretty crazy. All these stories are interesting. All these stories, affect me in one way or another. But when I read about that, just nuts. Because, and again, I don't know how basically aggressive Simone Duran was in wanting to testify against Quintana, or did the police really come to her, and really press her? Because she's from the area. She's smart. I'm sure she knows what's going on a little bit. Not saying she's involved in anything bad, but it's like, even if you not from the streets, you know what it is if you're going against certain gangs. And I guess my one big question, and I want you guys to comment down below what your thoughts are. Really, this is what I would love to have answered. Comment whatever you guys want. I love engaging, but this is the one question I'd really like to hear from you guys on, if you could. She knows she's going to testify and speak out against Quintana in this attempted murder from beginning of 2018. And she's corresponding with Abel Candy Gallegos, who's a gang member of the same as the person she's going to testify against. Basically what I'm saying is she knew these guys all knew each other. She knew these guys were all part of the same gang. So I guess I'm just confused on the part where she agreed to go hang out and meet up with them. And then him driving to a secluded spot. I guess what am I missing? I don't feel like that's an accurate portrayal. And this is kind of where I start to question the police on certain things. I question the media on certain things. So she's going to testify. She's going to go against this guy. But in the same realm, she gets hit up because it said Abel Gallegos reached out to her on social media. She starts talking and agrees to meet with him. I really want to know what you guys think. Please comment down below. But anyway, there you guys have it. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace out. Stay safe.